afternoon, salam sejahtera. Welcome to webinar Kecemerlangan SPM JPN 2021, organized by the Sector of Learning Sarawak State Education Department. And the topic of our webinar this afternoon is Bengkel Kecemerlangan Mata Pelajaran Bahasa Inggeris SPM 2021. I'm Madam Adeline Ong from SMK Sungai Maung, Kuching, and I'll be the moderator for the 1119/3, which is the speaking paper. Our presenter for today, Mr. Edward Ngui, is from SMK Chunghua. He has 12 years of teaching experience and is one of the CEFR master trainer for the latihan penskoran. In the video later, you will see Madam Nancy Darius, who has 11 years of teaching experience. Madam Nancy is a specialist teacher currently teaching in SM Science Kuching. And with her in the speaking test videos are her two students, Muhammad Danish Daniel bin Sudirman and Nurul Amira binti Romzi, both from Form 4 students of SM Science Kuching. Okay, we hope that at the end of this session, you will gain additional knowledge and information to better prepare yourselves for a coming SPM speaking test. Okay, so without further ado, I will begin by introducing the paper and also the video. And later, Mr. Edward Ngui will continue with the commentaries and techniques of the speaking test. Okay, so the 1119 English test for the new format consists of 4 papers: reading, writing, speaking, and listening, all of which will carry a weightage of 25%. Okay, so for our session, we will focus on the speaking paper. Okay, the format of the paper is available online. Okay, so our agenda this afternoon would be the format and the procedure of the speaking test, the assessment criteria, tips and techniques, followed by question and answer from the floor after the session. Okay, so you might be wondering what you will be assessed on. Okay, later when you watch the video, do look out for the grammar, vocabulary, communicative competence, and overall spoken performance. Okay, let us now look at the speaking test video of Madam Nancy and her students to understand better the procedure of the speaking test.
Good morning, everyone. I am Madam Nancy. And first of all, for our speaking test today, we would like to know more about you. Okay? So candidate A, what is your name?
So my name is Muhammad Daniel. You can call me Derius.
Okay. Candidate B, and your name is?
My name is Nur Amira binti Ramzi. You can call me Amira.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Danish, where do you live?
I live in Taman Sumber Alam Sanctuary, Kuching, Sarawak.
Okay, thank you. What about you, Amira? How do you come to school?
I went to school by car.
Okay, thank you. Now I'm going to ask you about your daily routine. Okay, start with Danish. What do you usually do after school?
So I will take a shower and then I get some 15 minute rest or nap, and then I will read some books.
Okay, thank you, Danish. Amira, what is your favorite food in the school canteen?
My favorite food in the school canteen is tofu soup. The reason why I like tofu soup is because the texture is very soft and it is more tasty if made into soup than fried.
Okay, thank you, Amira. Danish, tell me, what do you usually do with your best friends?
So I usually do some sports with them, like rugby, and have some fun with them.
Okay, thank you. Mira, what about you? How do you spend your leisure time?
During my free time, I will watch television with my family, play badminton outside the house, and sometimes I will play the piano or singing to calm myself.
Thank you. All right, now for the second part, okay. In this part, I'm going to give each one of you a topic and I'd like you to talk about it on your own for about 1 minute. You also need to answer a question briefly about your partner's topic. Okay, so candidate A or Danish, this is your task. Okay, so I'd like you to talk about a sport played in your school. First, you have some time to think about what you have to say. You have 20 seconds. All right, Dennis, you may start now.
So I play rugby in school, so I can play it at the school field. I think the rugby sport is more suitable for boys because boys have more physical strength and more intelligence mind. And yes, I play sports to stay healthy because it can gain our stamina and our intelligence. That's it.
Thank you, Dennis. Amira, do you think students have enough exercise and why?
I think school students don't have enough exercise because from what I see nowadays, some of the students are so focused with their study that they forget about their own health.
Yeah. All right, next one is for Amira. So here is your topic, Amira. You will talk about a friend that you admire. But first, you have 20 seconds to think about what you want to say. Your time starts now. All right, Amira, your time is up. Okay, so can you tell me
Okay.
about a friend that you admire?
My friend is a very sweet and nice person. Although she is fierce, but actually she cares with people around her. Other than that, she loves to watch anime and very fashionable persons too. Moreover, my friend and I met at the tuition center when we were in primary school. In addition, the quality that I admire from my friend is she is good at whatever subject she study, especially the subject of mathematics. Furthermore, when I find it difficult to understand the question or don't know how to do it, she will help and guide me to understand the mathematics subject and other subject as well.
Okay, thank you, Amira. Dennis, do you think it is easy to find a good friend? And why?
Yeah. Yes, I think it's easy to find a good friend because I live in border school, so we have 24 hours to spend time with our friends and find some good friends.
Okay, thank you, Dennis. All right, So that is the end of part 2. Now we are going to part 3. Okay. Now I would like you to talk about something together for about 3 minutes. The task will have 2 parts. In the first part, you will discuss something with each other for about 2 minutes. Then in the second part, you will have another minute to make a decision together. Alright, so let us begin with the discussion task. So this is what you are going to discuss on. Friends are important in our lives. Okay, here are some reasons why people make friends and a question for you to discuss. But first, you have 20 seconds to discuss or to look at the task.
Yeah, I will choose ask for help in times of trouble and learn from friends and beat stress. How about you? So, Amira.
Improve
Alright,
physical health.
your 20
Yeah.
seconds is up.
So,
Okay, now talk to each other about the reasons why people make friends.
okay, I will go first. So the first reason why people make friends is because it could improve our physical health, encourage you to change or avoid unhealthy habits such as excessive drinking or lack of exercise. Furthermore, friends can give us emotional support. I think when you offer emotional support to others, like you're telling them they aren't alone, for me, this message may give a positive impact. Last but not least, having celebrations together can boost our happiness and reduce our stress. So, do you agree with my reason, Danish?
Yes, I agree with your reasons, especially the have celebrations together with friends. It is because it can strengthen the ties of friendship. So, in my opinion, people make friends to ask for help in times of trouble because they will be there whenever we need them. And then we can learn from friends, like see their good deeds. For example, like volunteer and help some gotong royong at school. And after that, I think people make friends to beat their stress. Like they can hang out at the cafe with their friends and talk about their personal stories and problems. That's it.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Amira. Now you have about 1 minute to decide together which is the most important reason people make friends. You
Danish,
can
I
discuss.
think asking for help in terms of is a good decision because, from my opinion, if we ask help from our friends, we will feel more relief. So, what do you think, Danish? Are you agree with me?
Yes, I am very agree with you.
Alright, thank you. Okay, you've been talking about why people make friends. Now let's hear your opinion on what ways you can maintain a good friendship. Dennis, what do you think?
So, in my opinion, we can maintain a good friendship by having some fun with our friends, like hang out at the arcade and play some games together. And then we can maintain our good friendship by play sports together, like rugby, futsal, cricket, and thus it can make our body more healthy and active. Lastly, I think ways to maintain a good friendship is study together. It can make our future bright together in the future. with our friends. That is my opinion.
Thank you, Danish. What about you, Amira? In what ways you can maintain a good friendship?
First of all, you can maintain a friendship by force, and you have to be sure that he or she is always be there for you to hear your plan or anything you want to say. Other than that, I think meeting him or her to tell a story about your life, like to they will so that they will know that we trust them. With our dark past or our secret story. That's what I thought about friendship.
So thank you, Danish and Amira. That is the end of the speaking test.
Okay, so this is the end of the video. So after watching the video, do you have an idea of how the speaking test is carried out? And how did you grade the two speakers? Okay, so for the commentary, I'll pass you over to Mr. Edward Ngui. Okay, Edward, over to you.
Thank you, Miss Adeline. Can you see the slides? Can you see the slides? Yes? Miss Adeline, okay, thank you. All right, good afternoon. I will take over from Miss Adeline. So here, before I go into the commentaries, I would like to say thank you to Miss Nancy and her students for the recording. Thank you, Miss Nancy. And Danish, Amira, if you are watching this, thank you to both of you. So we go to the scores. I think this is the answer to the questions everyone is looking forward to. So how well did Danish and Amira do? Who did better, or why is it so? So like Danish and Amira, you will be assessed in terms of your grammar, vocabulary, communicative competence, and finally, the overall spoken performance. All right. So first, we look at the grammar. Okay. So if we look at the overall scores, Danish and Amira, they both score a 3 for grammar, a 4 for vocabulary. Okay. In terms of communicative competence and overall spoken performance, Danish score a 4, a band 4 for each, and whereas Amira, she scored a band 5 for each. So for communicative competence and the overall spoken performance. So let's see how did they do actually. Okay, so in terms of grammar, both they can communicate with reasonable accuracy. You can see from the examples here. All right, most errors are actually basic errors. Next, we look at the simple grammatical structures, or we call it grammatical structures. So both, they show a good degree of control of simple grammatical structures. So when what do we mean by a good degree of control? Means they can use some structures correctly. At the same time, we do see some attempts to use some complex grammatical structures. So in terms of sentence structures, I think we are all aware of simple sentences, compound sentences, and the complex sentences. All right. So for grammar, we also look at how well they form longer sentences with uh, cohesive devices. So for a band 3 for grammar, this is what we are expecting. Okay, they can form longer sentences, okay, using basic cohesive devices. So when we look at basic cohesive devices, they are actually higher frequency linking words. Example, and, but, because, first of all, and finally. Some may be asking what are the more complex or sophisticated cohesive devices. We will look into that in our slides later. Okay, so this is the first aspect that we are going to look at. That will be grammar. Next, we move on to vocabulary. Okay, in terms of vocabulary, both they score a band 4. So what does a band 4 in vocabulary mean? So here it means students can use appropriate vocabulary. Okay, so when Danish described why rugby is more suitable for boys, he actually said or used the words or the phrase physical strength. Boys have more physical strength. And as for Amira, she is able to explain that she likes the soft texture of her favorite tofu. So hopefully you can still recall, maybe not all, some what they said during the speaking test. Okay. All right, we move on to the third one. That will be the communicative competence. So this is the third aspect that we are looking at. So Danish, he scored a band 3. For Amira, Danish scored a band 4. For Amira, she scored a band 5. Band 5. So what do the two bands differ? So a band 4, it means he can express himself clearly, little hesitation, he can relate his ideas to his partner, and he can develops the discussion, but with slight difficulty. Okay, for Amira, she did better than Danish in this criterion, where she is able to express herself with little hesitation. She can use appropriate language to express her views. Okay, she in part 3, she is the one who initiates the discussions. She links her ideas well, and she used questions to invite to probe Danish, where she say, "Do you agree with my reason, Danish?" So you can look at it this way: if you or if one can express herself more spontaneously, can maintain, can develop conversation with more ease, then you will get higher band. You will get higher band. All right. So this is in terms of communicative competence. Okay. So finally, in terms of the overall spoken performance, so this score is given by the interlocutor. The previous 3 scores, they are given by the assessor, the one sitting beside, the one who is not talking to you. So for overall spoken performance, it is given by the one who is asking you the questions, the one sitting in front of you. So for Danish and Amira, Amira did better as a whole. So here, Amira, she gets a band 5. Danish, he gets a band 4. So for what does a band 5 mean? It means she can understand questions and instruction with ease. She can maintain develop interaction, can produce longer responses, little hesitations. One good thing about both, they do not need any prompting or they do not need any support from the interlocutor. So this is actually a good sign. In other words, if you find the interlocutor prompting you with more questions, that is not a good sign. So please watch out for this. So Danish, he obtained a 4. So a 4, it means he can understand questions, instructions. He can use longer responses, but with some hesitations. Again, one good thing, one commendable thing from him, he does not need any prompting or support. All right. Okay, so we have come to the third part of the 4 ways, or we call it tips and techniques to improve your speaking. So Miss Adeline, Miss Nancy and I, we look at Danish, we look at Amira, and these are the things that we think we can help them to improve. We can help them to do better. So we also hope that this will help all of you who are watching this now. All right. So what are the 4 ways? Okay. The first way, we call it PEES, point, elaboration, example, sum up. So why is this, or how can this be useful? As you can see, point. Do you start your idea with a point? Elaboration. Is there any elaborations? Example. How many examples are there? And finally, how to sum it up. So most, I will not say most, some students, I will not say most, some students, they have difficulty to speak in English. It does not mean they don't have the ideas, but they need a formula, or they need something to guide them to express their ideas. So they can use this to help them speak, to help them talk. All right. We look at some example. Hopefully, after going through the examples, it will be clearer. So this is taken from the pre-test by Amira. This is what she said in her part 3. So how well do you think she can develop her ideas? So if you can still remember, she talked about this point. Friends can give us emotional support. She elaborated listening to them when they are alone. Then she went straight to this may have positive impact. So let me ask you one thing. Would it be better or would it be clearer if she could provide an example here? Say they can give an example of teenage problems. For example, they are depressed over something. It can be school, it can be families, and they can go to their friends for support. They can look for their friends for comfort. And then for the summing up, maybe she can talk about how would they feel when their friends are there for them. All right. So this is one example. This is the second example, and this is from Danish. So students like Danish, we can say that he understands the point. People make friends to ask for help in times of trouble. He understands. And then he did elaborate. They will be there whenever we need them. But he stops, I would say abruptly, suddenly after that. So would it be better? So let me ask the same question. Would it be better or would it be clearer if he can produce or provide an example here? So last night when I was going through this, I was thinking of an example for Danish. So I thought of my two roommates when I was in university. Uh, I only had my own laptop when I was in second year. So some of you might be wondering how did I survive my first year without a computer to do my assignments? So what happened is these two friends of mine, they are my roommates. They offer me their laptop. One offered me his brand new laptop. He put it on my table and he left it with me. Another one, he left his room key to me, saying, if you want to use my desktop, you can always use it anytime. So I was very thankful to have friends like them, to have roommates like them. So coming back to our point here, what I would like to say, would you do the same for your friend? I think you know who your good friends are, so appreciate them more. So here, if Danish can provide a personal example, here at this point, I think it will really make a difference. So maybe all of you can think about it. Relating your ideas to yourself. Okay. Okay. Next. So this is the second way, the second tip. Expressions to express, expressions to justify opinions. So we took this from from Amira and Danish, where they are discussing, where they are negotiating the most important reason people make friends. So here the idea is we should prepare a list of useful expressions. Okay, expressions to exchange information, opinions, express, justify opinions, response to suggestions. So we focus on one here, to express and justify opinions. So if we look at the example here, do you think Amira and Danish, they can use better expressions here? Of course, I have to highlight, try to avoid mistakes like this. Are you agree? I am very agree. Try to avoid mistakes like this. You you do you are assessed on your grammar, so accuracy is quite I would say it is important to get your grammar correct. All right. So what other expressions that they can use? That here are some examples. Here are some examples. Okay, in my opinions. Okay, in my eyes, to my mind. As for me, my view is. So they are, I would say, there are many lists. If you try to find, there will be a lot of expressions, a lot of examples. So I think some may ask, do we need to memorize all of it, all of them? Here I would like to stress that it is not about how many expressions you know, but it should be how many you can use correctly, how many that you can use appropriately. So please go through the list, pick and choose a few or the few that you think you are comfortable with, and then practice them in your daily lives. Okay, I would say practice makes perfect. Perfect. You will be amazed how these expressions can make your speaking easier. Okay, I would say it is very convenient. If you know them, then you can start your sentences right away. Okay, that will be the. Okay, I think I have more examples. Okay, I have more examples here. So besides expressions to express justified opinions, let us look at expressions to respond to suggestions. Okay, so you need these when you are negotiating, exchanging opinions, information. I am sure, I am certain, I agree with you, I share your view, I think so. All right, so try to look for more useful expressions that you can actually use in your speaking. So by the way, if you are wondering where do I get all these materials, I actually took it from a website. It's called languagelearningbase.com. It's an online community for learning foreign languages. Okay, languagelearningbase.com. You can follow their Facebook page. The page is called English is Fun. You can just type English is Fun, and then they will post, I would say, interesting materials on their page from time to time. But if you have your own reference book, you can always refer to them, all right? Or even refer to your teachers, okay? Next. So the third tips or the third way is the use of cohesive devices, the use of connectors. So from the pre-test by Danish, as you can see, when he is trying, I would say he attempts to explain reason 1, reason 2, and reason 3 at one go. If you look at how he connects one reason to another, you will see that he can do better if he can use other connectors, or you can say he can use a more suitable connector. All right, so what he used here are and then and after that. All right, reason 1, reason 2, reason 3. So maybe you can ask yourself what other, or you can suggest to Danish what other suitable connectors he can use. Let us look at more examples of cohesive devices, or what we call connectors, or even linking words. So these are the examples. The list can go on and on. Okay, first of all, okay, moreover, furthermore, in addition, these are the common ones that students always use. All right. So again, I have my point is it is not about how many cohesive devices or connectors that you know. It should be how many you can use correctly, how many you can use appropriately. So go through the list. Again, pick and choose some that you are comfortable with and practice them in your speaking or even in your writing. Okay, so my advice is don't overuse it. Don't overuse the cohesive devices. Use them appropriately. Use them appropriately. Okay. Another example on the use of cohesive devices by Amira, as you can see here, this is in her part 2 when she describes her best friend. So as you can see here, she is answering the guiding question, the 4 guiding question. How is your friend like? Where you met your friend? What are the qualities that you admire about your friend? And finally, the question is, do you think it is important to have a good friend? Why not? So if you look closely enough, I think you will see that some cohesive devices are not used correctly. Take the last part for example. Okay. When I find it difficult to understand the question, she will help and guide me to understand the subject and other subject as well. So actually she is giving an example here. She mentioned her friend is good at her study, especially mathematics, and then she is giving an example, but here as you can see she used the cohesive device furthermore. So I would say it is not suitable here. All right, Amira, if you are listening, no offense. No offense. All right, what can she use here? Right, let us look at what can she use here. Okay, sorry. So there you go. When you provide example, you can use these expressions. Take for example, for instance. Pay note. For example, it does not come with the S. Many students they will write for examples. Actually, there is no S. It comes without the S. Okay. Here are the examples of cohesive devices connectors you can use when you provide additions and conclusions. Okay, I hope I'm not going too fast. Right, the last way, the fourth way, or the fourth tips, techniques to improve your speaking is try to find new ways to say something. So let us recap. The first way is the formula, the acronym PEES, point, elaboration, example, sum up. The second is the useful expressions. Number 3, the cohesive devices and connectors. And this is the last way, the fourth way, finding new ways to say something. All right. So we have one example here between Danish and Amira. Okay, let us look at it. What do you think of this short exchanges between Danish and Amira in terms of the vocabulary they use? Are they relevant, or can you come with even better choice of words? All right, I will just highlight a few. For Amira, she says, I think school students don't have enough exercise. Maybe she can rephrase by saying, I think school students lack exercise or lack exercising. Some students are so focused with their study, maybe she can rephrase it in another way. Some students are engrossed in their study. They forget their own health. Maybe she can use the word neglect. They neglect their own health. So if she can find new ways to say it differently, maybe, or I would say, it will help her to score better. It will help her to score better. I hope I can help you to understand better by giving you more examples. So you can always search useful information online. So what I did is I Google how to say things differently. I search by typing in how to say things differently. For you, maybe after you type and you click enter, maybe you can click images on your browser so you can actually see all this. I think you will be more keen to look at colorful pictures, uh, graphics, than reading a text full of words and letters. So I hope you get the idea uh, because there are so many words that you can learn. There are always more suitable words. There are always better words to use. Okay, these are just examples. These are just examples there, and the list can go on and on. So you may ask yourself, how many do you actually use? Or I usually ask myself, how many do I not use? So maybe you can start using new ways to say something. All right. So here they are all about feelings. So I will say when you give opinions, you are expected to view to express your feelings. So here are examples that you can refer to. So again, I will say the point is not how many words you know, but how many you can use correctly and appropriately. So go through the list, uh, pick and choose a few or some that you are comfortable with. Practice using them in your daily lives. Okay. All right. Okay. So I have 3 videos, part 1, part 2, part 3. So again, I would like to thank Miss Nancy and Dennis and Amira. So Miss Nancy managed to get Dennis and Amira to try the speaking test again. So let's see if they are doing better than the first time. So I hope you are still paying attention. All right, I'm going to play it.
Good morning. I am Madam Nancy, and first of all, for our speaking test today, I would like to know something about you. Candidate A, what is your name?
My name is Muhammad Dennis Daniel, and you can call me Dennis.
Right, thank you. Candidate B, and your name is?
My name is Nur Amira binti Ramzi. You can call me Amira.
Right, thank you. Danish, where do you live?
I live in Taman Sungguh Alam Suntuari, Kuching, Sarawak.
Right, thank you. Amira, how do you come to school?
I went to school by car.
Okay, thank you. Now I'm going to ask you about your daily routine. Danish, what do you usually do after school?
I usually take some nap, 5-minute breaks with my friends at the hostel, and read some books.
Thank you. Mira, what is your favorite food in the school canteen?
My favorite food in the school canteen is tapo soup. The reason why I like it is because the texture is very soft and tastier if made into soup than fried.
Thank you.
All right. So in part one, you should be aware by now there are two phases, phase one and phase two. So here, what we can see is in part one, both Danish and Amira, I think they are more careful with their sentences. They are more careful with their sentences. They try to avoid catchy mistakes, and yet we can still hear some slips here and there. This is part one. Now we look at part two. All right.
So for the next task, in this part of the test, I'm going to give each of you a topic, and I'd like you to talk about it on your own for about a minute. You also need to answer a question briefly about your partner's topic. So Danish, this is your task. I'd like you to talk about a sport played in your school. First, you have some time to think about what you have to say. All right, Danish, you may start now.
So I play rugby in school, and I can play it at the school field. I think it is suitable for the boys because boys have more body strength and clever mind. Yes, I play this sport because I want to stay healthy and I can gain my stamina at the highest level.
Right, thank you, Danish. Amira, do you think students have enough exercise, and why?
I think school students don't have enough exercise because from what I see nowadays, some of the students are so focused with their studies that they forget about their own health.
Okay, thank you. Now, Amira, I'm going to give you this topic. Okay, so I'd like you to talk about a friend you admire. But first, you also have some time to think about what you have to say. All right, Amira, you may start now.
My friend is a very sweet and nice person, although she is fierce, but she cares with people around her. She always helps her parents with house chores and helping her siblings with their homework. Other than that, she loves to watch anime and very fashionable persons too. I would like to add that we met at Flora Induction Center when we were in primary school. In addition, the quality that I admire from my friend is her intelligence. She is smart in whatever subject she studies, especially the subject of mathematics. Furthermore, when I find it difficult to understand any question or don't know how to do it, she will help and guide me to understand mathematics subject and other subjects as well.
All right, thank you, Amira. Danish, do you think it is easy to find a good friend?
Yes, I think it is easy to find a good friend because we live 24 hours with our friends at the hostel and we can spend our time together.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So from part two, second attempt, Danish, you can see that his sentences are more structured now. I play rugby in school. I can play it at the school field. Compared to the first attempt, we did the transcription. That's why we can compare clearly. In the first attempt, he said something like, "So I play rugby in school, so I can play it at the school field." So the later one, his sentences are more structured. As for Amira, she actually, if you heard it, she actually gave an example to the point, saying her friend is fierce, but she cares for people around her. So she actually included an example here, saying she always helps her parents with house chores and helping her siblings with homework. So we do see some improvements here and there when it comes to the second attempt. So this is part three. This is part three. So let us look at it.
Okay, so now I'd like you to talk about something together for about 3 minutes. The task will have 2 parts. In the first part, you will discuss something with each other for about 2 minutes. Then, in the second part, you will have another minute to make a decision together. Alright, let's begin with the discussion task. Friends are important in our lives. Here are some reasons why people make friends and a question for you to discuss. First, you have some time to look at the task. You have 20 seconds.
So Amira, I will choose ask for help in times of trouble, and then learn from friends and beat stress. How about you?
I would choose improve physical health, get emotional support, and have celebrations together.
Alright, now talk to each other about the reasons why people make friends.
Okay, I will go first. So the first reason why people make friends is because it will improve our physical health, encourage you to change and avoid unhealthy habits such as imprudent drinking or lack of exercise. Furthermore, friends can give us inner support. For example, listening to them when they are alone, comfort them with positive words, and lend our shoulders to cry on. Last but not least, having celebrations together can lift our happiness and reduce our stress. That's why friends are important to us because they give us emotional support. So do you agree with my reason, Dinesh?
Yes, I agree with you. With have celebrations together because it can improve friendships. In my opinion, firstly, ask for help in times of troubles. We as a good friend, they will be there whenever we need them. For example, like listen to our problems. Most probably, we can learn from friends too. For instance, we can see their good deeds. For example, like do a volunteer and join the gotong royong at school. Other than that, it can release stress or beat stress. In particular, we can hang out at the cafe and talk about our personal stories and problems. Do you agree, Amira, with my opinion?
Yes, I agree with you because having friends can make me laugh and happy.
Okay, thank you to both of you. Now we have about a minute to decide together which is the most important reason people make friends.
Dinesh, I think ask for help in times of troubles is a good decision because because on my opinion, if we ask help from our friends, we will feel more relieved. So what do you think, Danish? Do you agree with me?
Yes, I do agree with you, Amira.
You've been talking about why people make friends. Now let us hear your opinion on this. In what ways you can maintain a good friendship?
First of all, you can maintain a friendship by force, and you have to be sure that he or she always be there for you to hear your plan and anything you want to say. Other than that, I think seeing him or her to tell a story about your life so that they will know that we trust them with our dark past and secret story. That's my opinion about friendship. Thank you.
So, in my opinion, first of all, we can maintain a good friendship by having some fun with our friends, like playing games and hang out, take a drink, and so on. Moreover, we can play our favorite sports together, like futsal, rugby, and cricket. They can make our body more active. In addition, we can study for our bright future together.
Okay, thank you, Danish and Amira. So that is the end of our speaking test today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, madam.
Really.
All right. So I believe we can agree that they are doing better. So let me spell it out for you. So for Amira, she actually gave more examples for her point. Friends give us more emotional support. Friends give us emotional support, where she included, she actually used, for example, listening to them when they are alone, comfort them with positive words, lean our shoulders to cry on. And we also get to hear that she attempted to sum up the point by saying that's why friends are important to us, because they give us emotional support. And as for Danish, I think it is clear. I'm sure you hear him saying all the cohesive devices, in my opinion, the expressions, in my opinion. First of all, for example, for instance, other than that. So he also asked Amira, do you agree with me with my opinion? So I think he is very fast to catch the things that he needs to improve his speaking. All right, moving on. Finally. So before I end my sharing, I would like to congratulate all of you actually. Why? For being the first batch of the new format. So yes, it is not easy. When the going gets tough, the tough gets going. So all the best to all of you. Okay, thank you. So Miss Adeline, I pass the mic back to you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Edward. Okay, now I think we can have a few questions from the floor. Okay, so if you have any questions and the comment section is open, you can kindly type your questions in the chat box in the comment section. Are there any questions?
Any
I can
questions?
only see in the comment section, there are only comments on hoping that you will share materials used. Mr. Edward?
No problem. They mean the slides.
Is the comment section open? Okay, the chat is comment section is open now. If you have any questions, kindly type them.
Any questions? Can you see the questions? I don't get to see the questions.
Yes, Edward,
I can.
comments.
Okay, I can. At the comments.
Or maybe, Mr. Edward, later your materials, you can share them with at the Google Drive, right?
All right. Okay.
Okay. Are there any questions besides what has been written in the comment section?
We do have some time, right?
Yes, we do, Edward. We do have some time. In fact, we have quite a bit of time. Okay, maybe we will, if there are no questions,
So far, no problem.
oh yes, here. Look at
Okay.
yeah, now it's open. Wow, quite a number of questions here. Mr. Edward, would you like to take this one?
What if there is no concrete conclusion given in part 3? It is okay. We are actually looking at how well you express your opinions, how well you negotiate, even though you may not have the enough time to come to an agreement, but we actually look at the process, how you negotiate. All right. So it's okay if you cannot come up with an agreement within that 1 minute. Is okay.
Okay, would you like to take another question?
Which one?
For part 3, there's a question from Chris Form. Is casual conversation accepted?
So
For
how
part
casual? Okay, is casual conversation accepted? So how casual do you mean? So if let me just give some example. If you are using like, do you wanna? I'm gonna. I would say it's too informal to be in a speaking test. So yes, we still look at the accuracy in terms of grammar. We still look at accuracy. So some informal language like let's go, let's do it. Should be all right, but not to the extent it is too informal, I would say. All right.
Okay, Mr. Edward, how about a question from Mr. Kenneth Chong? Are there other examples of videos we can watch to improve
All
in
right.
our speaking test?
I think from the training, we have 4 videos. I think your school teachers should have them to share with you. For this one, we actually are lucky to have Miss Nancy to help to carry out the, the, the test with her students. So I think we have the module, we have another set, we have 2 sets of rubrics to share with you, but in terms of videos, we only have this one. We only have this one, the one between Danish and Amira.
Mr. Edward, would you like to take another question?
Yeah.
There's a question from Asha Claire. Will marks be
Okay.
deducted?
All right. We follow the time frame, meaning to say if you are reaching your limit, the time limit, the interlocutor or your teacher, the examiner, she or he will stop you there and then. He or she will stop you politely, of course. He will just maybe raise a hand and say thank you. So we do advise you to be to talk, but try to follow the time frame given. So you have to practice expressing your views within the time given.
Okay, Mr. Edward, do you think you have any time for another time for one or two questions? I think the ones who are asking how can we be not nervous, I think that one you just have to have more practice. Okay, there's
Yeah.
another question. Yes. Yeah. How about the question on does the marking focus on grammar or content? From Nicole Faith.
All right. As we have shown in the slides, we are actually assessing the students on their grammar, vocab. I would say yes. I would say yes. Accuracy is important. If the language is too broken to begin with, it will affect other aspects. It will affect other aspects.
Okay, and then how many? Let me see. Okay, I think some of the questions have been answered. Okay, like whether to speak formally or casually. How about a question here? Do we both have to agree in part 3 or are we able to disagree?
Okay, so that would be the purpose of the test actually. If you agree, how to show what to say to show you agree. If you disagree, what can you say? What expressions can you use to disagree? So either way, we are assessing you on how well you do it. You can agree or you can disagree.
Okay, the next question on what if I'm not fluent when speaking? Will the marks be deducted?
Do you mean you have a lot of so I would say that will come under communicative competence and the overall spoken performance where uh, I hope you still remember little hesitation. If you have more hesitation, your marks actually will go lower. So try to practice more.
I think we have one question that is important here from Rovendi Bedali. Hello, Mr. Edward. If we can't speak well on the speaking test, whether it will affect the English paper.
So I think we are all aware of the new marking. I mean the new format. Speaking paper, it actually the weightage of each paper is equal. Means speaking paper 25, reading, writing, listening 25. So I would say if you can score well for your speaking test, it will help your overall English paper.
Okay. Do you have any tips, Mr. Edward, on how to think faster? As the time given for them to think is short. A question from William James.
How to think faster. First, I think we try to understand the questions, and then I will say it will be easier if we relate our ideas to ourselves. Instead of talking about other people, we talk about ourselves, giving our own examples, our own experience, sharing our own experience. That will help, I think.
I think in our audience here are teachers as well. Mr. Edward, we have Dixon Cheles. Okay, his question is: Are the candidates paired according to the name list, or they can choose their partner for the speaking test?
We don't have these answers. We have to ask the examination syndicate, the lembaga peperiksaan. They are the one who are going to set the procedures, how the pairing is done, who are the interlocutors, who are your assessors. We have to wait for them to announce.
And another one, I think, must be a teacher as well. Noraihan binti Ahmad says, "Hi, I'm from SMK Katibas. The students might suddenly talk about something unrelated to the topic. We cannot interfere, right? Which part should we pay attention to when marking? C, CA, O, or L?"
I think I think she is asking about writing. Okay, in terms of speaking, if you find the students, I'll say carried away, so based on the interlocutor frame, I think she is a teacher, we can actually ask the question another time, or we can use the backup prompts to help her to come back.
Okay, Mr. Edward, I think we have a question on your tips from Study With Me. Is it better for a person to speak 3 points straight, or is it better to take turns to talk about the points one by one for a person in part
It
3?
All right, it actually depends on you. Depends on you. But I would say, since I think we should know our partners before the actual test, maybe you can talk it through with your partner. How would you two like to have it? 3 points straight or one by one, where there are more exchanges between ideas and information. So there are pros and cons. So you have to try it out with your partner.
I think you have answered Cikgu Raihan, right? Just now when she asked again, how do you assess students who talk about something unrelated to the topic? You have answered this question, right, Edward?
Yeah, using the prompts or asking the question another time, because we examiners, they do not allow to speak or to even use their own words. We have to follow the frame given, so that the test is fair to every candidate.
Okay, so I think we can take one or two more questions. There's another one from Ryan Smith. Do we have to talk in simple conversation or more complex conversation in the speaking test?
Do you mean your sentences? You can express your ideas in simple sentences or in even more complex sentences. But you have to use, or I would say, you have to be aware, is it appropriate? You may go on and on, you can make a long sentence, but it doesn't actually help. So cohesive devices, linking words, use them correctly, appropriately.
Mr. Edward, we also have a few questions, whether they should use the American accent or what kind of accent is recommended to be used during the speaking test.
I think as long as it is intelligible, we understand what you are saying, it should be all right. Indian accent, Chinese accents, it should be all right. It should be all right.
question that's related to part 3. Can the students take turns to speak on 1 point each for the part 3 bubble map with 6 points rather than 3 points at one go for each student?
So
From
I
Johnny.
think, okay. So again, the points are there to help them. So how they want to organize their ideas, or 1 point at a time, 3 points at one go, is actually up to the students. Okay. For me personally, taking turn would be better because we will see more exchanges between the two. Where they agree to one idea with another, they can support one another. I think that part will actually deserve more merits.
Okay, then there's, I think, a question from Putri Nur Shafika from SMK Kaichung. What if one of the pairs is having problems to answer or speak? Will it affect the marks of the other candidate?
I will say, how bad would the other candidate be? How bad would the other candidate be? Is it so? The better one can actually help the weaker one. So I don't think this will be a problem. The better candidate can prompt, can invite, can prompt the weaker one to respond. So I think that is also considered, or that we also look at that. So I think that should not be a problem.
I think that we have covered almost all, but there is also a question maybe by Izatul Najla. Are we going to receive a question booklet for part 2? Maybe because what you see now is a speaking test that is done online. Mr. Edward, can you maybe explain to them whether they'll be given a question booklet in the real speaking test?
Yeah, they will be shown the question, the rubric. Yeah, they will be shown. They will be shown the rubric, the question, yes. And we call the question, the rubric, the booklet, the candidate booklet, candidate A, candidate B. For part 3, they will actually see the mind map. The mind map.
Okay, I think we will take one last question from Lung Leo. Can we just use subject, verb plus object to reduce grammar errors?
That is one way to help the students so that their sentences will be more structured, avoid mistakes, avoid catchy mistakes. Yes, why not? Simple sentences are okay. Simple sentences are okay. We try not to, if the student really have difficulty in making long sentences, I would say simple sentences are okay. If they can, maybe 1 or 2 longer sentences using the correct cohesive devices or linking words.
Okay, so I think a lot of the questions have been answered. Some candidates might worry that they accidentally use other languages during the speaking test. Will marks be deducted? Okay, and what happens? Yes.
Deducted, no, but we will assess you based on what you speak in the language English. So if you use other languages and that affect your ideas, means we cannot understand what you mean, then I think it will have some effects on your marks. So try to find ways to express the same thing. Find other ways to say it.
Okay, so I think that you have answered most of the questions. Okay, Mr. Edward, do you have the few last tips for candidates for this SPM, coming SPM?
English test. So start talking to your teacher in English. Start talking to your friends in English. At least during the English lesson. So I think we should start. The first step is always the hardest, but as you go along, you will become more fluent. It will become smoother. So if you don't do it, you will do it on the actual day where I think you will have problems speaking in English because uh, you don't use English. All right. Your
Okay.
microphone.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Edward Ngui. Okay, this concludes the webinar for the speaking paper, okay, 1119/3, and we hope that you all have gained additional knowledge and information on how to tackle the SPM 1119/3 paper. Mr. Kenneth Chong, are you ready? Over to you.
Ready?
So we take our leave.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure. Thank you very much,
Okay. All the best to
Adeline.
you.
Thank you very much, Edward. Yeah. Thanks for the sharing. Hello, hello, hello. A very good afternoon once again to the officers from the Sarawak Education Department, officers from the District Education Officers from across Sarawak, teachers, parents, and students, wherever you may be from. Thank you for still being with us today in today's webinar. And for those of you who have just joined us, allow me to welcome you to our SPM Excellence 2021 webinar, organized by Sector Pembelajaran of JPN Sarawak. I'm Kenneth Chong from SMK Wira Penrison, and it is an honor to be the moderator for Paper 4 English 1119/4. Listening. We have for you today an experienced teacher who will share with you the format of Paper 4 as well as sharing with you tips on how to better answer this paper, something that I think you will find very beneficial. But before that, I would like to suggest that as you watch this webinar, do jot down your questions if you have any, and you can type them at the chat function on YouTube channel. The function will be available towards the end of the session, and I will read your questions and have our speakers answer them during the Q&A session later. Also, for teachers who are viewing this session, a QR code for ESPLG will be made available at the end of this sharing. So make sure you get your 2D scanner ready. You'll be able to register this as part of your training or your credit hours, yeah, for your ESPLG. So do look forward to that. Now, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, allow me to introduce the speaker for this session. He is Mr. Appolonius Tan, and he is an English teacher currently stationed at SMK Semarapadi. He is a teacher for the past 28 years, and he is also the master trainer for the CEFR familiarization training, as well as the master trainer for the formative assessment cascade training. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to welcome Mr. Appolonius Tan. Let's give him a virtual hand clap, everyone.
All right. Thank you, Kenneth.
You're welcome.
Okay, I can share the screen now. Kenneth, can you oh, okay.
Yes, we can see.
Yeah, okay, now, all right.
Perfect.
Okay, officers from JPN Sarawak, officers from PPDs, teachers, students, fellow audience, good afternoon. It's my turn to present this 1119 paper 4. Okay, this 1119 paper 4 of course is part of the SPN paper and is as important as the other three components. And that's why we have to do our best for this paper. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about the aim of the test. Okay, the aim of the test is to test your ability to follow and understand a range of spoken materials, such as newspapers, news programs, presentations, and everyday conversations. And then the 1119 paper 4 listening paper, of course, as you have seen, it has 4 parts. And in a test, you listen to a recorded text or text and answer some questions based on the text. And the good thing is you hear each recording twice. And as I have mentioned, the paper has 4 parts, and then there are 30 questions taking 40 minutes. It is 25% of the overall SPM paper. The recordings in the listening test may be in the form of monologues or exchanges between interacting speakers. And if there are monologues, there can be phone messages, radio broadcasts and features, news, public announcements, stories, and anecdotes, lectures and talks, and etc. And there can be exchanges as well, exchanges between interacting speakers. That can be conversations, interviews, discussions, radio plays, and etc. Okay, let's take a look at part 1. In part 1, there are 7 unrelated extracts of around half a minute each. They can be in the form of monologues or exchanges between interacting speakers. And there is 1 multiple choice question for each extract. The skills tested are listening for feeling, attitude, opinion, purpose, function, agreement, gist, main idea, and specific detail. And one thing you have to remember, from part 1 to part 4, most of the questions are questions that ask you to find specific detail. This means that some questions ask you to identify the speaker's opinion. Some questions will focus on both speakers and whether they agree on something or not. For example, the speakers disagree on many things, but they agree on one thing. So you have to listen for that one thing that they agree on. So some questions ask you to identify the speaker's opinion or attitude or purpose in talking. For example, to explain, to complain, and other functions. Some questions ask you to identify the main idea, but most of the questions ask you to identify specific detail. Okay, so the text type can be in the form of interviews, informal conversations, announcements, etc. Okay, so we're going to have a look at what part 1 of this 1119 paper 4 is. Okay, if you have your booklet with you, you can find in the last section of the sample exam paper and part 1, you are going to see these questions here, questions 1 to 7, and you can see the instructions. You will hear people talking in 7 different situations. For questions 1 to 7, choose the correct answer, A, B, C, or A, B, or C. 3 options only. Okay, so you will hear each recording twice, answer all the questions. So this is the information that we get from the booklet. Okay, so the type of here I have mentioned interviews, informal conversation, announcements, etc. And then what we can do is, as a student, we can listen first to find the correct answer to the question, because this is just a 30-second extracts or conversations. You can listen to it and you won't have any problem remembering all the details. So listen again to match that answer to the correct option. So there's no problem with this. But the thing is, the words in the options may not be the same as those you hear in the recording. I mean, the words here in the options here, A, B, or C, here, you may hear fight scenes, you may hear weekends, but you may not hear the words here, imagination. Okay, let's listen to this first example.
Question 1. You hear a girl talking about watching movies.
I usually enjoy watching my favorite movies and cartoons on weekends. Action movies are good, but I'm not that keen if there's too much violence. I wouldn't waste any time on horror movies either. I'll have trouble sleeping after watching them. I guess I enjoy watching fantasy the most, where there's magical kingdoms and dragons. As for romance, well, I don't really enjoy that.
Okay, even after listening for the first time, you won't have any problem getting the answer. So what's the answer? Yes, although you didn't hear the word imagination, what did you hear? Do you hear the word fantasy? Yes, that is the answer. Fantasy, something that you imagine, isn't it? So that's imagination. Okay, let's listen to the second one. And before that, this part 1, there won't be time given before the recording starts playing. So what we do is we just listen, and then we can focus on the question here, but the most important thing is we listen for the answer. Okay, so what I do is whatever it is, whether it's part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, what I do is for the first time of listening, I just listen. I just focus on the listening. I don't read the questions. But you may be able to read the questions for the, for questions in part 1, because you don't have any problem remembering, because it's just a 30-second audio. Okay, so that is part 1. So for the second time of listening, I will read the question and I will find the answer. I will listen for the answer in the recording. So that is what I do. Okay, let's listen to the second one.
Question 2. You hear a man talking about his occupation.
I always dreamed of sailing the 7 seas when I was small. In my 20s, I saved enough money working as a salesman to travel to Africa. While I was there, I took lots of great pictures, and that's what made me think of a career in photography. Since then, I've done lots of exhibitions, and travel magazines have used my pictures to write about holidays and hotels.
Okay, so what do you think the answer is? When did the man realize he could turn his hobby into his job? So if you listen for the second time, maybe for the first time, you maybe this question 2 is harder than question 1 because the man mentioned career. Okay, maybe it's still easy for you. For part 1, all the questions are based on separate situations. Okay, so it's not related. Number 2 is not related to number 1. So what is the answer for number 2? The man mentioned the word career. So when he was in Africa, okay, he thought about his career. So he thought about his job. Okay, so that's for first one, imagination. fantasy, and the second one, career. Okay, so that's what we mean by the words in the options may not be the same as those you hear in the recording. Okay. Part 1 has 7 questions, but we don't have to show all the questions. Let's take a look at part 2. Okay, part 2, you listen to monologue or text involving interacting speakers lasting approximately 3 minutes. So this is something that we have to remember. For the first one, part 1 is just 30 seconds. This one, 3 minutes. And there are 8 multiple choice questions based on the recording. So the skills tested in this part 2 are listening for attitude, opinion, detail, gist, main idea, and specific information. Okay, something I forgot just now. I go back to part 1. Oops. I go back to part 1. Okay, what we should have done is we have to circle. Okay, never mind. Okay, it doesn't work. It's okay. We have to circle. We have to remember to circle the answers. Okay. Otherwise, we forget. So in the actual paper, you will have 5 minutes. You have 5 minutes to transfer all your answers. You circle first, and then at the end of the test, you have 5 minutes to transfer your answers to the answer sheet. Okay. All right. So for part 2, that was part 1. This is part 2. Okay. So for part 2, you have 1 minute to read through the questions before you listen. Okay. All right. You have 1 minute. So it's not stated in the booklet, but we can expect this to have 1 minute for reading, because this is based on the Cambridge B2 first exam, which is that one is paper 3. Okay. And our SPM listening paper is paper 4. Okay, so you have 1 minute to read through the questions before you listen. So during this 1 minute, what we can do is we can underline. Okay, we can underline the keywords in the stem and the options as well. But you may be asking, okay, do we have time or not? Yes. Okay, so what I can say is you just try your best, okay? So for example, this number 8 here, what is the most important aspect of skateboarding according to Roy? And then while you're reading, bending, balancing, and moving, you can underline this if you can read this very quickly, okay? And then for number 9, when did Roy decide to be a skateboarder? You can underline this, be a skateboarder, and seeing the happiness. And after this, be here, after meeting a pro skateboarder, and C, watching a skateboarder. So it depends, okay? If you can read this very fast, bear in mind that there are questions until 15, isn't it? Question 11 until question 15. 8 until question 15. So you have to be careful here. When the audio starts playing, you have to stop doing this, okay? Whatever you do, if you are reading, you have to stop because you have to focus on the listening. So what I do personally is, okay, because this is something that people do, I try to do, okay. What I can do is I can underline a few, okay, maybe up to here, and then when the audio starts playing, I will start listening. I won't be reading this anymore, okay. So what I do is, for the first time I'm listening, I just focus on the listening only. I don't read anything. Okay, so here, what you can do is you can underline the keywords in the question stem and options. And a thing to remember is the questions follow the order of the text. They are not jumbled up. Okay, so the first time you listen, pay attention to the speaker's main ideas or gist or main ideas. That's what I usually do. And the second time you listen out for the parts, because for the parts that introduce the topic. Here it means introduce the topic of each question. Okay? And find the correct answer to the question. Okay, and here, a reminder, don't forget to circle the correct answer. Okay, because the pen doesn't work, so I'm not able to do that. And the words in the options may not be the same as those you hear in the recording, as you have seen in you have seen in part 1. The words may not be the same. The options, and then you read, you didn't hear those words. Okay, let's try. Okay, just okay, let's say we have underlined the stem here, the keywords, and here we have underlined banding, we have underlined balancing, we underlined moving. Okay, let's listen. The extract is just extract because it's not the full recording, and for us to answer question 8 and 9. Okay, so I'll play the recording.
Balancing is everything when you ride a skateboard. You have to learn how to bend your knees properly and move your weight around the deck. I remember the first time I saw a pro skateboarder. He came to our new skate park and put on a demo. When I saw him zoom up and down the ramp, I knew I wanted to do that too. I watched as he got ready to do a trick, and when it worked out, I could see the pleasure spread across his face. We all cheered, including the parents and the little kids, but I think I cheered the loudest. When it was over, he threw things to us: caps, t-shirts, wheels, shoes, and even a skateboard with his name on it. I caught a t-shirt and I wear it nearly every day. It's my lucky shirt.
Okay, after listening to the audio, number 8 is quite obvious, isn't it? Okay, let's say we have underlined important aspect, and then did you hear bending? Did you hear balancing? Did you hear moving? Yes, balancing, isn't it? Okay, so what about number 9? When did Roy decide to be a skateboarder? Okay, so this one is a bit tricky because the answer is it could be, isn't it? We heard meeting, isn't it? But the answer is watching a skateboarder showing some of his skills, because right after that, we can hear him saying that he would want to do the same one day. Okay, so that's why it's you have to listen carefully, listen for the best answer, correct answer. Maybe the first time you're listening, maybe you're not sure, B or C. Okay, but after listening for it twice, you will get the answer here. It's quite it will be more obvious. Okay, So things to remember, if you use this technique or strategy of underlining the keywords, you have to stop doing this once the audio starts playing, okay? Because you won't have time to find the answer anymore. The recording will just will be played only twice. Okay, if you miss the first one, you only get to listen it for the second one, and then that would be the first time of listening. That would be very bad, isn't it? So remember the pitfall, and here I go to part 3. Okay, part 3 is tricky. Okay, for the Cambridge B2 first exam, this one is also in part 3, and this part 2 is in part 4. Okay, they are switched. Okay, if you are using the B2 first listening resources or websites, okay, you have to remember that the parts are switched. Okay, but part 3, they are in part 3 the same. Okay, for part 3 also, the instructions here, you will hear 5 short extracts in which teenagers are talking about shopping habits. For questions 16 to 20, choose from the list A to G. What each speaker says, use the letters only once. There are 2 extra letters which you do not need to use. For the Cambridge B2 first listening test, this one is A to H, more difficult. Okay, and then this one is just A to G. This one is the SPM 1119 paper 4. Also, you will hear the recording twice. Okay, so what we can do is, because in this part we'll hear 5 speakers talking. They can be in monologues of around 1 minute each, and each speaker talks about a related topic. What we can do is we can underline. Okay, let's talk about the listening. The purpose first. The skills tested are listening for gist, attitude, opinion, purpose, feeling, main points, and detail. So here we have to remember that most of the questions are about finding specific detail. Okay, the text types are here, monologues. Okay, and you have time also, 30 seconds to read the task before you listen. But here, there's no information about time. So what we can expect is to have 30 seconds, because this one is based on the B2 first exam. Okay, so what you do is you read the options A to G and underline the keywords in the 30 seconds time. Okay. All right, so let's try. Always look for the best bargain. Here, which one is the key word or keywords? Best bargain. B, buy online as it is cheaper. And then C, don't let others make your mind up for you. So here is online, cheaper. Here is don't let others make up mind for you. Okay. Here is, so the keyword is, ask yourself if the item is really necessary. You can underline really necessary. E, be careful not to buy on impulse. Not on impulse, you can underline. And F, get the best deal from the salesperson. what you can do is best due. Okay, and then G, don't fall for marketing tricks. Don't fall for tricks here. Okay, so we have to remember A to G, 1 will not be used. 2 will not be used. Okay, 2 will not be used. And in the B2 first, even harder. 3 will not be used. Okay, but if you listen, let's hope that it is as doable as this. Okay, so we listen. The first time you listen, pay attention to the speaker's main idea. Mark the option closest to the idea. Okay, but I will not play the recording twice. I will just play once. Let's see if you can get the answer. Okay, so the second time you listen, check your answers. You may need to change some of them. Okay, so maybe after the first time of listening, you will get the answer already. So I will play the recording, and it's for the first speaker and the second speaker, speaker 1 and speaker 2. Okay.
Speaker 1.
Before I buy something, I look at the advantages and disadvantages of buying it. I ask myself why I need it, where I'll put it, and what it's for. If I can't give definite answers to these questions, I may want it, but will probably decide I don't need it.
Speaker 2. At supermarkets, there are always people trying to sell you things. I normally compare prices of different brands to get the best deal. Sometimes I use vouchers that I find on the internet or in newspapers. I like to go online to know who is offering the lowest price.
So did you get the answers? For number 1 is speaker 1 here is A, B, C, D, E, F, or G. Yes, it's not necessary, isn't it? He would think about it, isn't it? So D is the answer here. And then what about speaker 2, number 17 here? Yes, best bargain, isn't it? Yes, okay. All right, so that was part 3. So remember, part 2, you will have 1 minute. You can expect to have 1 minute to read. For part 1, no time given because the audio starts playing immediately because they are easy to answer. For part 3, 30 seconds, half a minute. Okay? So here, don't forget, you will hear 5 extracts in which teenagers are talking about shopping habits. Every one of them is talking about, okay, this same topic. Okay? So let's look at part 4 now. Part 4. Okay, if you look at the text here, I didn't underline anything. Okay, let's read the instruction here. Questions 21 to 30. You will hear a student, Aslan, talking about his experience as an exchange student in Italy. For questions 21 to 30, fill in the missing information in each numbered space. Okay, and use no more than 1 word for each space. You'll hear the interview twice. Answer all the questions. Okay, so for this one, it can be a monologue or it can be an interview, which is in this case. Okay, so why didn't I underline anything? Because, all right, so how much time do you have? Because the recording will last 3 minutes. Okay, just like part 2, the recording will last 3 minutes, approximately 3 minutes. Okay, so here, what are the skills tested? Listening for main idea, specific information, attitude, and stated opinion. And the text type can be talk, presentation, review, interview, etc. And we can expect to have 45 seconds only, okay, to read through the sentences before you listen. Think about the type of information missing in each sentence. So if you are in Form 5, your teachers have taught you part of speech, isn't it? Yes. So it depends, okay? You have to read this very quickly. When Aslan applied for the exchange program, he was worried about his, you have to guess whether this is a noun, verb, adjective, or adverb, being too small. But it's okay if you don't have time to think about that. Just keep reading. When he arrived in Rome, Aslan had a chance to experience a different something here and enjoy an evening walk around the city. Aslan's host family took him to a nearby. When he discovered he was interested in the local team, here we can guess, isn't it? Yes. So you also remember last night's results. Okay, Aslan even took a photo with the team captain at a something, okay? Or maybe before you listen, you can guess the answer already. So, okay, so maybe not to attempt it if you don't have time, but we can tell, isn't it, here? And then, okay, another thing to remember is the information on the page follows the same order as the information in the listening text. Okay, so what it means is we are, okay, what I do is for the first time of listening, I just listen because I listen for gist and main ideas. And then the second time I listen, I will read this and I will find the answer. I'll listen for the answer. Okay, because I don't have to worry about it being jumbled up. And the words you need to write are heard on the recording. So this is another thing you have to remember. The words that you write are heard on the recording. It means that you don't need to change the tense, add anything to the word, prefix, suffix. Okay, you don't need to, okay, because the words you need to write are heard on the recording. There is no need to change the form of the word, but the surrounding words may be different, okay, because the question here, of course, is tricky. What you hear you will hear the word, but the surrounding words may be different. Okay? And then write one word for each space. If you are using the Cambridge P2 First exam listening test, that is paper 3, you find that it's just not only one word, but it can be 1, 2, or 3 words. Okay, for one word here, if you get one word in the actual examination, I think it is easier than 2 or 3 words. Okay, but you have to read this carefully before answering the question, of course. And then the next thing is you check that the answer fits grammatically, okay, singular, plural, for example. Although I mentioned, we know that the words you need to write are heard on the recording. There's no change. There's no need to change, but it could be that the words that you hear is only singular, or the word can be plural, for example, okay? And then you have to make sure that it makes sense in the complete sentence. Okay, so let's, this extract is just for number 21 and number 22. Let's listen, okay?
How did you know about this program?
It all started when my teacher announced that there would be a student exchange program. We could choose to go either to Italy or France. In the past, I had always ignored these programs, but for some reason this year it caught my attention.
So, did you apply straight away?
I think my biggest concern was that I had a limited budget, but I didn't let that stop me. I went ahead with the application and it was successful. My parents were a bit worried about how I would handle life away from home. Of course, I'd never traveled that far before, so I had to buy a new suitcase.
So, tell me more about your trip. What was it like when you got there?
In Rome, once we'd arrived, it was nice to be able to relax and walk around the city in the evening after the long flight. I noticed that the Italians do things differently. Their culture isn't the same as ours. They truly know how to relax and enjoy themselves.
Okay, bear in mind that that is only 1 minute. If you look at the time here, 1 minute. The whole audio will take nearly 3 minutes. Okay, so it's quite tough, but you know the answer. Okay, here it's tricky, isn't it? Now you're wondering whether it's, yes, whether it's suitcase or budget, isn't it? So you have to listen carefully when you listen for the second time. Or when you listen for it for the first time, you listen for the main idea or gist only. And the second time you listen for the answer, you might be able to get the correct answer already. Okay, here is budget. Okay, about his budget being too small. And then what about this? When he arrived in Rome, Aslan had a chance to experience a different culture. Okay, so you might be wondering, culture or cultures here? Okay, a different culture. Okay, so that is part 4. If you are using the Cambridge paper for practice, you see that this is in that paper. It is separately, isn't it? 10 sentences. That's why this one is called completing sentences. Okay, or gap filling, completing sentences. Right. The other ones are, all right, multiple choice, isn't it? This one is sentence completion. Okay, sentence completion. And you find that this is also 10 sentences, okay? There are 10 sentences here, just like in the Cambridge paper. All right, count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's just that they are in paragraphs. Okay, but we have to think of it this way. We cannot expect it to be always 10 sentences, but it's not too difficult. All right. Even if it is 9 sentences, it will be the same. Okay, so that is the end. And final thoughts, it pays to increase your word power, isn't it? Or it pays to enrich your word power, because candidates with a wide range of vocabulary will do better on the listening paper, as they will be able to pick synonyms or paraphrases of the items from the audio text. So you have to read, keep on reading, improve your vocabulary. So Kenneth, back to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Appolonius, for that wonderful session. We will now open the virtual floor for the question and answer session. And with that, we would like to ask that those of you who have been joining us, you can now type your question in the YouTube chat function. Okay. Do bear with us for a few minutes, as there is usually a delay from when you type the question and from when we see it. So do stay tuned with us, yeah? So let's see. Okay, the chat box is now available on YouTube. So if you have questions for Mr. Appolonius, feel free to type your question and we'll try to answer your question the best that we can. All right. So we'll just wait up. Okay, let's see. It will take some time. Let's just hang in there for a minute. Let's see if I can see it. Okay, the chat is open. So there are currently about 767 of you watching us live on YouTube. So if you have any question with regards to the listening paper, feel free to type your question, yeah? Okay, you will be able to see the chat question there. Let me just to make sure that it's working. So, Mr. Appolonius,
Yes.
for the listening, do we, do you think that our students will have a problem when it comes to listening? Because sometimes, as in speaking, there's sometimes different accent. It can be, a Western accent or a very Oriental accent. Do you think that would be a problem for our students?
I think it will be a good idea to listen to different accents if for the purpose of training or practicing, if because the resources that we get, for example, from various sources, are British accent. We should use that.
I see.
Yes.
What are some activities you think our learners can do to improve on their listening skills?
Okay. What I can do is what I do is for the first time listening, pay attention to the listening, listen for main idea or gist, and then after getting what the speakers are saying, and then the second time listening, we start reading the questions, and we will get the answers because we know what they are talking about. If you miss the first one and then the second one, maybe you panic, then there's nothing we can do, isn't it? Because it will be over. 3 minute recording or even the 30-second recording will be over. Yeah, keep practicing, yes.
Okay, we have a comment here from, I believe, a fellow teacher, Cikgu Vimala Devi. She praised you for a very well presented. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
I think your colleague,
Yes.
Okay. Any questions that anyone out there would like to ask Mr. Appolonius? It's not very often that we have invite somebody so expert, when it comes to listening. For those of you who are sitting for SPM this year, certainly you are faced with different types of papers: speaking, listening, reading, and writing. So, okay, I think I have a question here.
Yeah.
Just give
Grammatical
me a moment.
errors. Oh, isn't it? Grammatical errors.
Yeah, we have the question.
If we, this will happen in part 4, and then grammatical errors will be taken into account. Okay, we can expect that to happen. Yes, and then that's why you have to read carefully to see whether it fits or not. The answer fits the gap or not, and you have to read the words before and after the answer to get it right.
Okay, there's
So
also another question.
it will be wrong.
I see. So there's another question here by he. Are they allowed to use bombastic words or just use
Oh,
antonyms or synonyms
of
when
course,
answering the listening?
this one, it will be exactly the word, the answer will be exactly what the answer is. You cannot use another word, synonym or what. The synonym I mentioned is just for you to understand a question in and options in part 1, 2, and 3. Of course, for part 4, the word that you have to write will have to be the exact word for the answer. So you cannot write any other word for that.
I see. So we have another question here from Kimchi Popcorn, something I would really like to eat right now. The question is, I realize that it is quite difficult to find revision materials for English paper 3 and 4. So what is another way for me to do revision for paper 3 and 4? Very good question by Kimchi Popcorn.
Of course, the answer is by assessing the sites that has exercises. Maybe they have free exercises for just 1, 2, and they give you 4 free practices, and then the rest will be paid. But you don't need to pay anything. Of course, you just use those 4 questions, and then it will be enough because they are full. Okay, for example, part 1, although our SPM paper will be a bit different from the Cambridge paper, but they are almost the same. Yes, it's just
How
that
about
part 2 and 4 are switch only. We can use that
right?
for practicing. Yes, actually, we are advised to use that. Yes, teachers are advised to use that. Yes, for
How about
students.
you, like for practice, just for practice listening and getting main ideas and just, do you think even like the practice for Moet, we can also use it like on our own time to better, our listening skills,
Mm,
and do you think that's a good idea as well?
yes, it is a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we can watch news as well, and then
Mm-hmm.
we can listen to it. And then if you want, maybe you can close your eyes and listen. Okay, if for some people they cannot focus, maybe you just listen, focus on the listening.
I see. Well, we have some very good questions, so we'll keep the floor open for just a few more minutes, and we'll see if there's any more question that Mr. Appolonius can help us with. Okay, so for those of you who have been with us since 2 p.m., thank you very much for joining us since then. And actually, this is a three-part series. We had Pepper 1 and Pepper 2 before this, followed by those taking English literature. And today, I believe it is the last uh, webinar for SPM English, and we are ending it with a bang with paper 3 and paper 4. So we are very lucky today because we have very experienced teacher, Mr. Edward, Madam Adeline, and also Mr. Appolonius. Yeah. So I guess that's all the questions that we have. Everyone is saying that, thank you. They're saying thank you. They've enjoyed the presentation, that it was very helpful. That's amazing. That is exactly what we are aiming and hoping to do through this webinar. reaching out to all of you out there who may stumble when it comes to SPM 1119 papers. Yeah. We have a lot of thank you. So I think while we wait for maybe one or two more questions left, maybe we can share the slide for the ESPLG.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll have Mr. Appolonius share so those of you teachers out there who are tuning in to us via YouTube. In a short while, Mr. Appolonius will share with you the QR code for you to register the credit hours into your ESPLG. Okay, so let's have Mr. Appolonius share that.
Am I sharing already?
No, it's not yet on the screen. Okay, here it comes.
Okay.
Okay, so for those of you teachers, this is only for teachers, yeah? So make sure you have your QR code scanner ready, and you can scan the QR code that's currently shown on your screen to register as part of your credit hours in the ESPLG. Okay, so let's check one final time and see if there's any more other questions. Okay, we do have a question. So while you're doing the registration for ESPLG, we can also answer this question. Yeah. This is a question by Mr. Dennis To Katuan. There are several Englishes that differ in accent, pronunciation, vocabulary, and spelling. How to help candidates familiarize with these Englishes? Muchas gracias. Très bien.
Okay, of course. Yes, with a lot of practice. Yes, then listen to this one is actually a British accent, isn't it? So the best one would be using the B2 first, or the previous one, which is the FCE, which is the first certificate of English. That one still applies, although that one is the older paper, but you can find a lot of resources from that. But primarily, that one is okay. Of course, British accent. Unless you are taking another paper. So bear in mind, if you are good at doing this, and then of course, if you study the textbook, it prepares you for the B2 first paper. And then, of course, you won't lose anything. You can actually take that paper if you want to, but we focus on this 1119 paper 4.
Right. Okay, we have a compliment from Kimchi Popcorn. Thank you, Mr. Appolonius and Mr. Kenneth. The explanation and presentations are very clear and easy to understand. We have a question from Hanson Tan. Teacher, how I gonna catch the answer from listening? Can reply the listening again when I can't catch the answer?
What you mean is you cannot answer after the first time listening, isn't it?
Yeah, I think
yes.
so, yeah.
Of course, after the second time listening, you will find the answer. Of course, most of the time, let's say, even the first time listening, you panic, you don't listen. That's the problem. So I suggest the first time listening, just listen for the gist and main ideas, and then don't worry about what is being asked, because after listening to that one, once you get the gist and main ideas, then the second time you listen, you will get the specific information which you need to use to find the answers. Let's say you have underlined the main keywords in the stem and in the options, or you might not want to use that method technique. So it's okay. You just listen first, and then the second time listening, you'll get the answer.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, actually, this is for our technical department, our technical team. So there seems to be a problem with the ESPLG link. Don't worry. Maybe our technical team, maybe our technical team will be able to help you with that. Yeah. Okay, yeah, I got a few responses regarding the ESPLG. It's okay, we will look into it, and then we'll have the officers from JPN to maybe update the link later. Yeah. We have one last question from Shafira Nafiza. Is it okay if we answer the part 4 question in American spelling and British spelling? What do you
Oh,
think, Appolonius? That's a valid question, actually.
yes, a valid question. So
Yeah, it's
what
a valid question.
I advise is we should use British spelling. Yes, but this one will depend on lembaga peperiksaan.
Right.
Yes, they will advise the examiners whether they should accept that or not. Now, actually, we don't know. This is something, new paper, yes.
Okay, for the teachers, we have just got words from our technical department. The link is now open, so feel free to scan once again the link that's available on the screen. And just to prove that it is, I am also going to try to scan it myself. Can you see me scanning it? Okay, let's see. Right, it is open. So make sure you scan your ESPLG. All right. So I think that is
That is only one of them. There's another survey form, but this
all
one is
right.
only different. Yeah, I just show for a while. This one is for
Okay.
yes, survey forms only.
Okay.
This one is for
So
teachers and students. So maybe this one is more important.
okay.
Okay.
All right. We'll leave this on for a while. I think we
Yes.
can also maybe we move on to the second slide first, Mr. Apollonius,
Yeah, sure.
and I would
Sure.
like to tell our students, okay,
Okay.
for those of you students and teachers, we would be very appreciative if you could scan. So if you see on your screen, the left is for teachers and the right it is for students. It is a short survey regarding the webinar that we are organizing for you. So we would like to know your feedback, and through this uh, survey available on the QR code, we would like to know better like how we can improve and how in future we'll be able to organize more of these kind of webinars for the benefit of everyone. So for the students, once again, can you scan the QR code that is on the right, and the QR code for teachers and officers that will be on the left. Okay, so right. So go ahead and scan it, and then we will also turn back to the ESPLG QR code later. So can we have everyone very quickly scan the QR codes for your survey? It's very nice of you to say send your thank you and everything. It was an interesting session. Thank you very much to all who participated and those who have been a part of this webinar English family from the very beginning. Okay, so all right, don't worry. This webinar will be available on YouTube. So at any time, you can open up this link, and you may once again scan the QR code that's available. So the video will be made available for viewing after this live session, and in case you miss some parts, you can go back. I think Marianne just now said something about she missed a few parts. You can go back. The links are available. Just make sure you go back to the links that's available on the web page. Yeah. So I think
Go
that's
back to
it.
the previous page. Need to?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
ESPL.
All
Yeah.
right.
So, like I say once again, for students and teachers, if you'd like to, we would greatly appreciate if you could fill in the questionnaire form. Um, you can go back to the slides when you use the scroll function on the YouTube site, yeah, on the page. And also for those of you who have missed the paper 1, paper 2 YouTube link, is also will be available as long along with the literature in English link. Okay, so I see, right? Okay. I think if there's no more question, is there any last word, Mr. Appolonius, before maybe we end this session a little bit early than scheduled?
Yeah, of course, it pays to enrich your word power. Of course,
Mhm.
yes, that is my final thought. Yes,
Mhm.
so read a lot. Yes,
Right. Thank you
right.
very much, Mr. Appolonius. Like with that, I would like to thank Mr. Appolonius Tan, Madam Adeline Ong, Mr. Edward Ngui from the previous session for taking the time to be with us today. And also to all of you who have joined us via YouTube this afternoon. We hope that you have benefited from this session. All the best in your SPM 2021. Yeah. Until then, take care, stay safe, and fly Kenyalang, fly high. Goodbye, and hope to see you again in future webinars organized by JPN Negeri Sarawak. So thank you very much, everyone. We'd like to also thank the officers in JPN Sarawak for putting together and organize this webinar for everyone. So good job. Thank you.